It's that time of the week when we talk about funding. This is a huge issue, and a lot of times you guys write in, and I ask you to write in to tell us what are your funding issues and what, my phone's ringing, what are your funding issues and what do you need to be able to get to an ABA program? Like, what is holding you back? What's preventing that from happening? And not all the time, but a lot of times you guys will write in and say funding. Sometimes it's access to a program that you don't have a provider near you. And sometimes it's both of those things, which seem insurmountable, right? What are you going to do about that? If you don't have insurance reform where you are, and so you don't have any providers, because they tend to go hand in hand. Where insurance is, the providers tend to go. And so here you are sitting someplace in the world, there's no providers that are close by, and even if there were providers close by or providers a little bit further away, you don't have the money to be able to afford it and you have no funding source. So what do you do then? Do you just give up? And of course the answer to that is we don't give up. We never give up, right? And what we have seen, this is not personally the way in which I did it because I didn't have to. I lived in a state where we had funding and we had providers, but there are people around the world that are doing ABA programs, intensive ABA programs with their children, with its trained staff in their home, and it's completely volunteer staffed. I know, isn't it shocking? Isn't it exciting? Don't you want to know these people? And from time to time, we show a video of a family, Maddie, a little girl who was diagnosed with autism, and the family was living in a place where they didn't have access and they didn't have funding, and they were trying to make it work on their own and had volunteers, and they were reading as much as they could. You want to talk about taking the crash course and buying books and trying to figure out and put together a curriculum. And it was right about that time that Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, who you see on the show on Fridays, happened to be doing a series of talks in different places around the country, and he was giving a talk in this community, and I don't know whether it was the mom or the dad came and heard him speak, and it was right when the skills program was coming out and the eLearning program was coming out. And he said to them, you know, here is this amazing tool that we're trying to do for people who live too far away. A tool called eLearning to be able to train whoever you need to train, yourself and your whole staff, and skills, which is the curriculum, everything that you could need with the progress charts to help you to teach a child and not have to go figure it out on your own. You take the assessment and you've got a pool of lessons to choose from that are appropriate for your child. And with teaching points and, you know, the full bore and the progress charts and the whole thing. And so Maddie's family, who was already trying to do this on their own, embraced that and said, how fabulous. And they set about teaching their volunteers with the eLearning and using the skills program to great success, so that their child made tremendous progress. And they didn't pay any of their staff. They were all volunteers. And you might think, okay, that is an amazing story, because it is, but they're not the only ones. We just show video of them. And over the years, there have been many, many people who have found ways to get volunteers to work with their children. So, you know, you might be saying to yourself, well, how am I going to raise the money? Maybe in your circumstances, maybe there's a way that it becomes not a funding issue. Maybe instead of looking for money, you might consider looking for volunteers. Just throwing it out there, and here's some suggestions of some things that have worked for people in the past. Going to different community organizations and asking for help and support. You know, the list is long of all the organizations. There are all kinds of humanitarian and philanthropic organizations in every single community that part of their mission is outreach into the community and to be of help and support of people in the community. And unless you tell them, here's what I need, they might not know. But we've heard of people going to their local Elks group, and the Shriners are going to, I'm trying to think, Knights of Columbus, those kinds of organization, even the Rotary Club. We've heard of Rotary clubs who have, said, here's how much time and we can split it amongst us, and made a commitment, like a 2-year commitment to staff volunteers, because they belong to these organizations so that they can be of help. These are people who get it, that when you give and when you help, you feel better. They want to help your child. I'm going to get emotional that there are people out there who do want to help our kids. Do we want to be careful about who we invite into our homes? Absolutely. We always want to have a baby monitor. We want to vet everyone. We want to make sure that it's safe. But there are people who truly want to help your child, and they want to help your child just for the pleasure of helping your child. There are other people out there who desperately need work, and they know they can't get it unless they're trained. And if you're offering free training, that's enough for them to be willing to volunteer their time. So you can look in both those areas. Asking family and friends. We have heard of many occasions where people have said to a wide group of friends and said, here's what we're about to do in our home. We're about to do an intensive ABA program, and we're looking for volunteers, and being very clear and saying, we need somebody who can volunteer this much time. Here's what you're going to learn, and you're going to help change a bunch of lives. Because we change this child's life, which means we change this family's life, which means we change the world, because this child goes out into the world and interacts with the world. That is changing the world. And there are people who want to be a part of that, because it's amazing. And asking friends and family, like I said, I didn't need to do this, but I remember while my son was having ABA, I was riding to a work event with a woman who I'd never met before, and she was telling me about her daughter, who was about to start her second year of college, and that she wanted to be a pediatrician when she grew up. I mean, she's second year of college, she wanted to be a pediatrician, and that she was working at a store and getting minimum wage and not having enough time for her classwork, and was taking all these psychology classes. And I said, this young woman should be a therapist. And she is today. She is a therapist, and I believe is in graduate school at this point, and will be the pediatrician that both you and I want to take our children to, right? Because she'll have worked with our kids for years and years before she's a pediatrician. Fabulous. There are people out there who want that experience. And then, of course, going to college students and other organizations on the college level. We've heard of sororities who have adopted a child in terms of saying, this is our community service project for the next 2 years. We're going to have a rotating schedule and train all of the sorority sisters in ABA techniques, so that we can be the volunteers. And, each sorority sister maybe, donates between 6 and 8 hours, and together the house changes what happens with this child. Amazing. Nobody gets paid. And then, of course, what we saw with Maddie's family was that they went to their church and said, hi, here we are. We have a child here that's a part of your community, and we need some help. Who's got the time? And that people overwhelmingly said, you're part of our community. We want to be here for you. And I think, we had a camera crew there that was able to videotape a lot of things. And what we heard overwhelmingly was that it was a gift to everyone, that the people who volunteered were thrilled with having been a part of that. So maybe if this is just another way of looking at the equation. Is this right for everyone? No, but it might be right for you. And I think it's important for us to sometimes step outside the box and look and go, maybe raising enough money and getting an ABA provider here isn't going to happen fast enough. Is there another way? And this is another way. And people have done it. You wouldn't be the first person. Something to think about.